debt management strategy laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 7th March 2024. Honorable Senators, we now have an opportunity for senators to contribute to this motion. And I'll first call upon Senator Edwin Sifuna Watenya.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was going through the very glossy Kenya Kwanza 2022 manifesto. Madam Speaker, one of the striking things that one gets from the very initial pages of that manifesto is that the Kenya Kwanza political coalition at that particular moment in time had properly diagnosed the problem with Kenya's debt. At least that's what they told us. And in fact, there is a paragraph that I wanted to borrow there. They said at the time of campaigns that the usual adage, the common adage that when you are in a hole, you should stop digging. That I have lifted word for word, Madam Speaker, from the glossy Kenya Kwanza manifesto for the last election. So the expectation was, and public pronouncements that followed the launch of that manifesto, was that we were going to see a stop in the borrowing that had been, had characterized the last regime, and that was the reason why we were in the hole that they said we were in. Madam Speaker, if you go to page 6 and 7 of the report of the Committee on Finance, they will tell you that in June 2023, Madam Speaker, the debt was at 10.2 trillion Kenya shillings. And by February of 2024, which is less than 8 months later, Madam Speaker, we were at 11.2 trillion. At that rate, in 8 months, our debt had ballooned by 1 trillion shillings. I have heard my majority leader also wax lyrical about the magic that was worked with the refinancing of the Eurobond. Madam Speaker, if you go to page 9 of the report of this committee, you will see reference there to the partial buyback of the Eurobond. But Madam Speaker, what the committee does not tell you is that we as a country in that buyback actually offered one of the highest interest rates, higher than any other country has done in Africa, Madam Speaker, at 10.37% for that Eurobond, for us to attract investors. And if you want comparisons, Madam Speaker, Cote d'Ivoire in January of this year offered or issued a Eurobond and their interest rate was 8.5%. Benin did the same in February at 7.5%, Madam Speaker. We have kicked the can down the road so that in 6 years' time, we will be paying investors the highest rate by any African state on a Eurobond. So it is not something to sing about, because the hole that we were told we were in and that this current regime promised to stop digging further is getting deeper and deeper. Madam Speaker, you will also see at page 8 of the report that the committee acknowledges that Kenya's public debt, although remaining sustainable, it still has a high risk of debt distress, which tells you that we shouldn't be celebrating anything as it is right now, because we are still under great risk of debt distress. Madam Speaker, let me conclude by making a few observations on some of the stakeholder submissions. But unfortunately, Madam Speaker, let me note that some of these submissions by key stakeholders to the committee did not find their way into the recommendations by the committee. And I don't understand why. Luckily for me, I'm seated next to one of the members of the committee. Senator Eddie will tell me why they ignored these important submissions from ISPAC. At page 21, Madam Speaker, paragraph 25, C, D, and E. I just want to read those recommendations, Madam Speaker, at page 21 of the report. No,